Hi, and welcome to Cooking with Resilience. In today's episode, I'm going to show you how to prepare a healthy dessert that goes beautifully with any lifestyle. In fact, when you know the secret behind this recipe, you'll have a life solution that will never fail to impress no matter what situation you're in. And while today's show will just be about the basics of how to make it, I'm sure you'll find ways to plate it up to meet the requirements of your own life. So basically, having this dish up your sleeve will make you versatile and resilient in any situation. And what are we going to cook today? Well, we're going to make the basic form of what's called the happiness cake. This cake is about finding happiness in your life. So if you know this recipe, then basically you know the recipe to happiness. The interesting thing about this cake is that once you've learned the basics, you're going to find that you can actually improvise with the specifics of your ingredients so that you'll be able to make happiness with whatever life throws at you, so long as you follow one simple rule. Now that rule is to make sure that the range of ingredients that you put into this cake is going to draw from the entire food pyramid, or in our case, the life pyramid. Right, and with this rule in mind, when you've mastered this basic recipe, you will be able to make happiness with whatever ingredients you have on hand. So let's get started. To make the cake part, you're going to need ingredients from the 5 major food groups of life. Well, in life, actually, there are 6, but that's what we have the icing part for. Here we've got 255 grams of engagement. We've got 225 grams of meaning. And of course, a little extra to taste. I personally like to have some of my meaning overlap with downtime and pleasure. So today I'm using a variety of flavors, as you can see on this table, to achieve this effect. Now, you can go ahead and use whatever it is that you want, because you know what? Meaning for everyone is a personal choice. Now, what makes this recipe really ideal for these days in quarantine is that it actually only calls for minimal and standard forms of relationships, which is great because, we can't go out and have our social engagements. So all we need are a couple of these and a little pinch of these. Now, of course, we have to have pleasure. So here we have, for this recipe, 150 grams of pleasure. Although I have to admit that my personal preference is that it isn't the pleasure group that makes this cake so stand out. It's the subtle and curated mix of everything else. So if you're a bit like me, you can probably get away with as little as 80 grams of it, but you can go all the way up to that 150 grams. Then again, don't forget, we're going to throw in some more pleasure when we get to the icing part. So, just keep that in mind when measuring all of your ingredients out. After all, we don't want to make life sickly sweet. And of course, to complete this recipe, we need just the right amount of downtime. Downtime is really good for helping bring about the individual flavors, while at the same time, it makes everything really become an integrated whole and really stick together. And that's really important. So in this case, we're going to use 150 ml. After all, you know what? Too much downtime and we become fat and lazy. And too little and nothing sticks together. Now, in addition to all of this, you're going to need a cake tin, and don't forget to pre-grease this. Life is always better when things are a little greased. And also, don't forget to go ahead and preheat your oven to 180 degrees. Now, I've got all of my ingredients out here, so let's make some happiness. Now, like everything in life, I'm going to find something that totally engages me. I'm going to find something that is also extremely pleasurable and has a hint of social relations to it. So I'm going to go ahead and stir this all up so that it comes out really integrated. So what you want to start with here is an activity that does all of these things and all of these things really well, and even more importantly, all of these things really well together. Now, the actual activity that's going to work for you is going to be something that you need to figure out because, well, let's face it, everyone is individual, and so the things that we like are going to be unique to us. For me, there are quite a few things that tick off these requirements. So, for example, chamber music or playing Scrabble. So have a think about that, and you know what? Perhaps you're going to find your exact flavor as well, because starting off with a basic idea that ticks all of these requirements would just mean you have something that's easy to build on in the future. And you know what? Everything is bonus. You can't make a cake without these. Great. So once all of this is all mixed up, go ahead and sprinkle in one of the smaller flavors of meaning. In this case, I'm going to choose these guys. So, let's talk about music. Maybe instead of just playing music for fun, you decide that when social restrictions ease, you're going to put on, I don't know, a small concert or something. Or maybe before then, you might just practice up so that you can do your own quarantine multi-track version of the videos that you see, going around the internet. Because you know what? I've noticed that people's creative outputs bring joy and hope in humanity to others. So while I talk about it like it's just a little small thing, just a tiny bowl, it's still quite a really meaningful thing to do. Now, once that's mixed up, we're going to need to focus on giving this cake a bit more substance. So we're going to go ahead and really dig our hands into meaning. The juicy stuff. Now, the key thing here is to really brainstorm and just squeeze all of that you can get out of that activity. Look at that, just squeeze it there and go ahead and pop that in. Maybe instead of just playing that concert that, brings people a smile and has a lot of meaning to people, maybe you go ahead and you ramp that up and you do something like you perform for charity. You'd be surprised actually at how many people really appreciate and support good amateur concerts for charity. So you see, an activity that was just fun becomes so much more when you add different levels of meaning to it again. Now, go ahead and stir that up. Again, there is such a range of ideas and personal tastes, so if you can comment in the comments and help people have ideas on how to bring meaning to the things that they're doing, you can really, really help a person. Because you know what? You can never have too many ideas. All right, once you've decided how to add your meaning, go ahead and do that. Mix it in really well. And while you're at it, throw in a couple of other flavors too. So in this case, I'm going to choose these. And I really like this one because it's mixed with a bit of downtime. It's the perfect flavor to have for self-reflection, because in that downtime, if you mix it with meaning, you're not just daydreaming, you're reflecting. And that's valuable. And it makes the cake really smooth and rich at the same time. So, bonus. Let's go ahead and put that in. Now this is a lot of work because I didn't pre-mash it. You see, ideas, engagement, meaning, all of these things are things you work really hard on, and you need a little bit of downtime in order to make it gel. So you know what? I'm actually going to make this gel a little bit more and put some more downtime in. Now, I don't want to just do that. I'm going to also mix in a little bit of social engagement. Now, this cake will really hold its form now. So go ahead and mash that up. Now, if you're asking me, my preferred method of social downtime is Skyping with someone to find out how they are, how they're doing, that kind of thing, just having a really good chat. But of course, Skype doesn't bake too well in the oven. So for now, I'm just going to go ahead and mix in the eggs and the oil instead. Now, make this really smooth, as smooth as you can make it. And well, what you've got here is the basic recipe for the cake of happiness. I'm going to go ahead and put that back up on the screen because it's really important to have the base ingredients on how to make happiness. And you know what? Now it's ready to go. It's waiting to bake. Just remember, everyone is different, and so what might be fun or engaging or have meaning for one person might leave a really foul taste in the mouth of someone else. And this is important because when choosing your ingredients, do it with care. All right. So let's go ahead and pop that into our tin. And then we will put this right into the oven. Now, depending on the size and the shape of the cake you're trying to make, you're going to want to put that in for about an hour, maybe an hour and a quarter. But really, like all delicate processes, you shouldn't just blindly follow somebody's recipe or instructions. Rather, you should know what the feedback cues you are looking for. So Basically what you're looking for here is to have a nice golden brown on top and for skewers to come out clean, because the nice golden brown will tell you that the outside is done and the clean skewers will tell you that the inside is nice and firm and therefore is also done. In a more general sense, you know you are truly engaged with something when time ceases to have meaning. And not just because that activity occupies a lot of time, but because you get lost in that time. And speaking of meaning, you can tell that something is meaningful, not because society tells you so, but rather because it moves you. And it's your soul, not your brain, that tells you it has value. Remember, meaning is different from achievement. Even if a lot of people do get that confused, keep that in mind because that is key to happiness. Now, speaking of achievement, let's go and make that icing. Now, to make this icing, we're going to mix a little bit of achievement with a dash of pleasure. Now, I have to say for myself that this really is the icing on the cake. Working on something called pursuits of mastery is, for me, one of the most pleasurable and engaging pursuits that a person can have. That is meaning, achievement, and pleasure all rolled into one. So let's make this icing super easy. Simply mix your achievement with a little bit of pleasure and stir that in to make it super smooth and super yummy. Achievement is one of those tricky ingredients to work with because, I mean, let's face it, at its base, it's pretty healthy. It helps build your bones, gives you that solid base, that structure that gives you confidence and allows you to do the things you want to in life. But a lot of people really like the downtime fatty version of achievement. And you know what? That just clogs your arteries in the long run. You know what I'm talking about, those lazy people who think that achievement can come without any hard work. And then, of course, there are the others who like the pleasure version of achievement, which is really just more about liking achievement for the acclaim rather than for the internal pride that comes with finally having succeeded at doing something that was really difficult. And again, just a small win, but a real genuine win is enough for achievement. But, you know, there you have it. One smoothly integrated, low-fat, and healthy serving of achievement, smoothly mixed in with your flavor of pleasure. Nothing to do now but wait for the cake to be ready and to spread this yummy achievement on. In the meantime, let's have a sit down and let me get serious for a moment, because the things I've talked about in this video are actually quite important. I hope that you enjoyed that. It was definitely something fun and wacky for me to do. Definitely outside my comfort zone. Because as you can see, I am not a chef. But you know what? Bringing happiness into your life should be something that's fun. So I thought I'd just do something a little lighthearted to get my message across. That said, the message itself is really serious. In order to have a balanced life, there are 6 areas of needs that need to be met. And the activities that we choose to fill our day with need to satisfy these areas of needs. So like a balanced diet, where you need to eat a certain proportion from each of the different food groups, so too is a balanced life, where you need to do activities that draw the right proportions from all of the areas in life. Now, the easiest way to remember these different life groups is with the acronym RAMPED. So that's RAMPED. You can think of this as a technique for happiness of resilience ramped up. Now, if you want to get a jump on learning about these critical areas of life before I get to a video that discusses these in more serious depth, there are a lot of resources online, and I'll put a few in the description. But for now, you should have enough to get yourself started, and I will get to each one of these at some point. So with the knowledge that you've gained from my recipe on happiness, think about how in your own life you can effectively have your cake and eat it too. Stay safe. I'll see you in the next video.